Yo, yo, Zach Bradshaw, the Greensboro SEO Pro, back once again to wax poetic about SEO. So this is going to be a real SEO video. This isn't some 13 tricks to increase your traffic by 76% or some crap like that. This is a video about problem solving, about critical thinking, about project management, about how to strategically plan and execute site migrations across different scenarios, and make sure that you get your 301 redirects correct, and make sure that you don't lose all your SEO traffic or referral traffic if you're getting, if you have some strong links that are actually sending traffic to your site, and making sure that, potentially you set yourself up to increase your SEO as you migrate a site instead of, getting the downside of that. So there's a little bit that goes into it, but I'm going to go over some live examples that are all kind of in different progress points right now, but there's various things going on, and I realized over the last few days that I have several projects lining up where I can put a video out, or maybe several videos out that go through these things, have long form discussions that will be great training for my team, but will also be beneficial for other people. These are, this is a type of video that I haven't seen anybody make before. I'm sure somebody's technical SEO course probably has some good 301 redirect site migration discussion, maybe a SEMrush webinar or something like that. But I haven't found one on YouTube, and I think that this one is going to be super helpful for potentially other people, but definitely for my internal team, and maybe for clients as I'm trying to explain to them different nuances of their site migration. So first and foremost, what are 301 redirects? It's basically an HTTP status code. If you go to look it up, that's what things are going to tell you. And what that means is basically just infrastructure of the internet thing that tells a web browser or some other client, whatever the case may be, whatever you're browsing the web with, that this resource has moved permanently to another place. Now, there's also a temporary, like a 302 redirect that's saying this is moved temporarily. Even if something is moving temporarily, you probably want to use a 301 redirect based on the SEO value. But it's it's one of those things where if somebody clicks on a link that is going to yoursite.com/XYZ and that page is moved, if you set that 301 redirect, it will bounce them immediately to the correct URL. So that can be you had a resource that you moved it from one URL to another, or you improved a resource, or you deleted a resource, and now when somebody lands on this space, you want to now put them to your new updated version or your better version or whatever you're using to replace it with, right? There's a variety of applications for it, but it's really important when it comes to SEO. So again, going over some examples. Moved and deleted pages. Obviously, what I just alluded to, whenever you're changing your content management system from Wix to WordPress, or from a custom HTML installation over to WordPress, or from WordPress to something else, you're likely going to change just the URL structure, how the the blog posts, the permalinks for them, where the media is stored, all different things like that. And I'm actually going to show you a few different examples from Wix, from a custom installation, and another example from WordPress itself. So you may also, especially nowadays that people talk about this, your crawl budget crap that is a little bit overblown, but very often you can have good results by condensing your pages down that may be older. They could be getting some traffic, and maybe turning them all into one article, or maybe like, hey, these are kind of outdated, let's go ahead and redirect them to newer, updated articles that may not be the same but are on a similar topic, whatever the case may be. There's lots of different applications where your 301 redirects could strategically be used for again what I'm mentioning down there at the bottom, but Ninja SEO, and that kind of goes in with the moved and deleted sites, right? So if you have a I used to own ZachBradshaw.co, now own ZachBradshaw.com. ZachBradshaw.co is $30 a year, and I'm not using it for anything, so I just let it go. But if I wanted to keep it, then I could redirect that entire site to ZachBradshaw.com, so that if somebody landed on an article on ZachBradshaw.co, they ended up on ZachBradshaw.com. Well, ZachBradshaw.co was worthless, so there was no reason to do that. But if one day Greensboro SEO Pro, I want to migrate this brand to Local Wildfire or one of my other brands. I may use a 301 redirect to basically take all the link juice that's been stored up on the site, all the links that it's built from, all of my different campaigns and any other authority or relevance, and then redirect that to my new site and give it obviously an SEO relevance boost as well. So there's lots of different things that can go into it, but this is one of the main things, according to Moz, and this is really the conventional thinking in SEO, is that a 301 redirect is a permanent redirect that passes 90 to 99% of link equity, aka ranking power, to the redirected page. So this is very, very important. This is why it's important to get your 301s right, but it's also alludes to the fact, or you can pick up the context that you're not getting all of the power. So if you can avoid a 301 redirect, if you can actually send a direct link, or if you don't have to move your stuff, it could potentially be better, because if you have 16 links from Forbes, from Huffington Post, from wherever else going to this article, and now you want to redirect that to a new article, well, you may lose 10% of your link power. And if you're in a competitive niche where especially those level of links make that final difference, well, you may drop from your first spot in your instant answers on a 20,000 per month keyword search down to number 7 on that same thing, just because you now lost the direct links from those specific places. So obviously you could go to Forbes and HuffPost and ask them to change your links to the new page, but they may just delete it altogether, right? So there's lots of things that go into that, and you just want to really consider them all, right? So there's several different examples. Obviously all websites, or lots of websites, most websites used to be www before. Now that's more common because it's not really used anymore. It's deprecated. So if you have a new site, don't use www. But there's also this, HTTP or HTTPS. And on the vast majority of sites, this is set up correctly. But just to be clear, if you go on my site and you type in HTTP, or if you type it in with the wwws on here, then it's going to redirect you to this version of my site. So it's always just going to go back to the HTTPS and then directly GreensboroSEOPro.com. And this is an example of a 301 redirect that is present on most sites, right? Now this is an example of a custom HTML site that you very often see. They'll have sometimes the homepage will still have a .com, but they'll also have an index.html homepage, and you'll actually see that on 2 sites in a moment. But redirecting that to the main homepage is always best. Even if you're still on a custom HTML installation, just having one homepage is always going to be better for your link equity in SEO. Remember, you're cutting out at least 1% or whatever. The reason Moz says that, Google says that they try to pass all of it, but it's kind of hard or kind of impossible. Sometimes there's redirect strings that are preventing the web crawler from reading things right, or whatever the case may be. I'm going to say algorithm. So it's it's robots trying to figure out what humans think about websites, essentially. And then here's an example on my site. So GreensboroSEOPro.com, I used to have a discovery. There was one for a discovery form and for a discovery page. Now both of those actually go to my free SEO audit page, right? So it's a very similar page, but this one has now been replaced, and I wanted to change the URL because I'm probably going to try to rank this for free SEO audit on a national level, right? So again, there's lots of considerations that come into this. It's important for those backlinks, right, that I mentioned, Forbes or HuffPost, or your local Chamber of Commerce linking to your website, and making sure that that link juice flows properly to the right pages on your site. And then the same with internal linking. So as you change your URLs, some of these 301s you set up may capture incorrect links that are older. So if you have especially a 1,000-page site where you just have tons of blog posts that are linking to an article that has now moved, that 301 redirect is going to carry a lot of those links to the correct place. But always, again, a direct link is better than a redirected link. So if you can go back through those 1,000 posts and change the URL so that that link goes directly to the new page as opposed to having to use the redirect, that would be better for your SEO overall. Now, in different scenarios, you may have all different types of pages or file types that you also may need to redirect. Sometimes you don't need to. You know, I have again a WordPress to WordPress migration that I'm going to show you in a moment, and none of the images or anything like that need any migration. Now, I have another site that some of that stuff could use migration, but it's not going to be important for SEO because the PDFs and the images are rarely linked to. They're mostly just embedded on different places, and usually those they're not well optimized images anyway, so it's not worth the effort to redirect all those URLs because nobody is linking to those crappy URLs, and our new updated files are going to be way better optimized anyway. So it varies, you know, depending on the case. Now, there's different ways to implement 301 redirects. There's, you know, on WordPress you can use different plugins. I use WP Engine, which has a server-side redirects with some fancy helpful tools that are much better, but there's also, you know, HT access and probably a few other methods I don't even know about to handle your 301s, and it depends how you do it, right? What is going to be easiest, what's going to be the longest lasting, what is going to be something that I consider, I think, more than other people, what is going to be easiest for the next person who comes along, right? So there's lots of things there, and then the scope, the long-term planning, and then you got to make sure that you understand and have a little bit of patience for the troubleshooting, because there will be some in all likelihood, unless it's a very simple site like the first one I'm going to show you. And then you got to quadruple and check these things, because it's very easy for your redirects to, especially when you have multiple levels to your links, it's very easy for one of those to be wrong, and then you just are redirecting people to a page that doesn't exist and hitting a 404 error, and that's the exact opposite of what you want, right? So that's it for this little bit of this presentation part of this. Now I'm going to start getting into live examples. So this first client is Estes Co, and their site is already built on WordPress, somebody's custom built theme for them. And right off the bat, when you go to the home page, they split up their traffic. So they're already messing up as far as the SEO goes. But there's just some other, like, there's various reasons why there's a bad idea. One is because they're not just flooring. They're actually an epoxy additive, essentially. So they're related to different chemical companies, or they offer their products to flooring contractors, but also to pool contractors. I think as soon as we click through over here, maybe it's you'll see the pools, especially for their ceramic color quartz, and I think a couple more of their products. They have like a pebble sand product that we're probably gonna add a page for as well. That you know, it's not all about flooring. And when you look up here in the URL structure, this is basically like a secondary homepage, and it's estesco.com/permacolor quartz, which is a specific one of their products. So when you come down here, permacolor quartz, ceramic color quartz, and they have vinyl chips, and a few more products. Again, like I said, we're going to add. But for this URL to kind of be like a landing homepage for several of these products is not ideal, right? So once you come over here to the products page, you find more information about permacolor quartz, which, you know, is also laced with these other products here, and then they don't, you know, there's various problems here. Like these are supposed to be anchor links, but if I click on them, it refreshes the page instead of just scrolling down. So vinyl chips is at the bottom of this page. Now the page is loading instead of just scrolling down like a proper anchor links would do, right? So again, I'll show you, this is the same page that I was just on. I clicked on this link, and it had to reload just to get me down here, which is not how that was intended to be made. And then there's, you know, this TG saying that never really got built out in the same way. So there's various issues on the site. Also, when you come over here to the About Us, you see this stuff, it's not bad or anything like that. The beliefs, the contact us, whatever, it's not bad. You see this number, but if we go back here to the main home page, come over here to the pets page, or to the pets side, I should say, and we come over here, you'll see that these pages are exactly the same. So we have a pets slash about, a permacolor quartz slash about, and same with the beliefs, right? And see, this beliefs is how an anchor text link is supposed to go. So I'm on the about page, I click on beliefs, and it scrolls me down. So this one is an example of that same thing that the developer was trying to pull up on the products page, but correct. And you see that this number is also the same. So there's various things here where they kind of have a split layout, but aren't even splitting up their sales funnel to go the right way, and then they're messing up their link equity by having like 2 secondary home pages, having this pets page when they're not really a pet supplier. They mostly, almost all their pet stuff is aquarium sand, and so it's not necessarily the best use of their keywords. So in our new version of their site, we're kind of doing the same thing where now instead of having a permacolor quartz like whole side to the website, we're turning that into like an epoxy products page, landing page, that then has separate pages for permacolor quartz, ceramic quartz. When I'm going to get them to change their name to Color Flakes here, just for good SEO and product value or whatever. But there's the pets page is separate, but they're not like a completely different layout that does weird things with the URL. So if we come in here to SEMrush's site audit, you'll see how these things break out, where it's pets products, pets about, permacolor quartz contact pages by SEMrush's measure of which pages are most important to the internal linking on the page. They're saying that this page is essentially the most linked to page on the website, saying that most things on the website are sending things to this as the most high priority page, and that's not how you want it. You want your home page, your service pages, the pages that are targeting specific keywords to get the highest score within this tool here. And it's an SEMrush measure. It's not like, it's not the gospel or anything like that, but it's a pretty good indication here that just something is wrong at the very least with the way that this site's links are pointing to each other. And it's, it makes sense when you have multiple contact pages, multiple about pages. Like if we go to this specific link right here, this estisco.com/contact, it redirects to the permacolor quartz contact page, right? So instead of going straight to contact, it went to permacolor quartz/contact, when there's also a pets/contact, right? And then the names are different, and that's helpful, right? But why is this number the same, right? So there's a variety of issues within this that we are working to clean up. It's not when you're doing SEO and you want to do it right, you focus on more than just keywords and crap like that, right? So this is basically how their 301s. This is our little worksheet within their master workbook that keeps track of really all of their content, but for right now we're just using the 301's parts of it. There's really a lot more columns within this tab on the spreadsheet, but they're deleted out partially for the purpose of making these videos. So now this side of the chart keeps the original stuff. So this is the original page titles, the original URL, and then this is like what we're moving things to, right? Now within this code, just to explain it to you, because you're going to see this several different times, the new, and if you're on my team, then you will be using this probably on a fairly consistent basis. It very well may be changed by the time you're getting it, but so if the page is new, it doesn't need a 301 redirect, right? So I am creating new about pages. There wasn't an original about page that needs to be redirected to this about page, but these two, the pets/about and the permacolor quartz/about, both are going to be 301'd to this URL, and this is just the way that I denote that, and maybe this will make this slightly more easy to tell what's going on here. But if a side is blurred out, then you're basically not having to worry about that side, right? So these URLs don't have any other destination other than this one, right? So they don't need anything on this side, and these URLs never had an original URL, so they don't need anything on this side. So if it's just got this indication here, you'll see there's no 301 redirect needed because it's the same URL, right? I don't need to put a 301 there. I don't need to put a 301 to this contact page that existed but had a 301 redirect. I'm going to take that 301 redirect off and create a consolidated contact page that will still split up their information well for them. Now, we're also adding new pages to make it obvious that they don't do retail, they are wholesale, and lots of the copy on their most of the words on their page right now make it seem like you can call them for bags, right? And that's not what they do. They are found in many stores when it comes to their aquarium products, and they serve many contractors when it comes to their epoxy products, and there's some nuance there. But then down here, when it comes to basically what I'm breaking up into Estes Pets and Estes Epoxy, most of these pages, like the Pets Gallery, the Pets Products, the Permacolor Quartz Gallery, and Permacolor Quartz Products are all going to get folded in to the different pages here. Now, on the pet side of things, this is just a little nuance I want to explain in this, especially for my team, if you're watching this. Now, on the pet side, all of these can fold into Estes.com/pets. That was a funny voice crack, but all these can fold into Estes.com/pets, right? But when it comes down to the Permacolor Quartz, everything before was under a Permacolor Quartz page when it probably should have been under an epoxy. Should have been the main part of that, right? So it should have been like epoxy or epoxy products. And so because any links that they would have built from other contractor websites or other industry space websites, if they were for Permacolor Quartz, they would probably go to this Permacolor Quartz page or these Permacolor Quartz pages, even though if somebody needed to link to ceramic quartz or SS vinyl chips, they would have had to use the same page. I am making the executive decision, and maybe there's, depending on the industry or whatever else, it's just a kind of a subjective decision. I think this is probably the right one, but I'm probably only about 65% sure, 70% sure that this is the right way to do this, and maybe we will play with the 301s later and redirect these URLs to the epoxy page, because that will be like a hub page for the epoxy products, and so that may help our rankings for the ceramic color quartz and the vinyl chips, but 301ing these to the Permacolor Quartz page will certainly help that one, and it's one of their mainstay products that does well and gets lots of branded keyword search volume. So this one, as you can see, most of the pages on the site are new, right? Within SEMrush, it only found 80 pages on the crawl, and after about the first 20, most of these are WP content. This is mostly WP content that we don't need to move because it's already on the WordPress install, and most of it is not even going to be linked to anyway in the new version of the site. So there are new pages, but you see that there's a very few 301 redirects that are actually necessary compared to some of the examples that we're going to get into next. So here's another client that I convinced to switch their site to WordPress, and they ended up wanting to stick with their regular developer, which is fine. He was one of the best ones I've ever worked with before. And I just wanted to start this one out by showing you originally their site, how it scored within SEMrush's site audit, and then today. And there's some more things that we could do to obviously clean up some of these issues here, but it's the score wise it's much better, even though the site is actually larger. These are basically like tier 1 issues or tier 1 errors, tier 2 errors, and tier 3 errors as far as SEMrush is concerned, and so the most egregious things are all gone. All of these are actually new. The same warnings that are here are not the ones that were present here, so most of these are gone, and there's new ones that came up basically just because of the way that the site was built, being on Elementor, and page builders can get a little bit bloated, and so those errors end up being probably like 97 or something like that, 92 that are unminified JavaScript and CSS files. So there's still work to do here, but obviously the WordPress switch helped things. And then there was some other considerations, right? Because like most sites that are built by a web developer that's not looking at the full SEO or digital marketing landscape, the pages didn't quite match to what people were searching. So originally they had a page here that was called Sustainable Recovery. We changed that to Relapse Prevention. They had a page that was called Support Services, and we changed that to Addiction Support Services. And in doing that, we also ended up changing some of these URLs. So obviously this is our content optimization dashboard, but within this specific pulse for this relapse prevention page, you'll see that originally the URL, we had it marked as wrong because it was Sustainable Recovery. And Sustainable Recovery is not a bad page name or line of thinking for a recovery center, but it's not something that people search for specifically, right? So we can still write about sustainable recovery, still put, we haven't changed any of the words on the page, but people actually search for relapse prevention. So let's change that URL, and now we've marked it as perfect. And we've done that across various ones on the site, even pages that didn't really change their targeting, right? So this IOP page, originally the URL was intensive outpatient, and we added program to the end of that. This one that used to be our program, and now it is, or maybe it was just program, and now it is addiction treatment program, right? So obviously there's some more keywords within that will help with the relevance. Now, because this is not a site that I'm hosting, she already has her host that she uses, and it's on a WordPress install. We were just able to add the simple 301 redirects plugin, which is my preferred WordPress plugin for doing 301s, because you just do 301s. It doesn't do other crap that's loading in the background when I'm not using it, right? So I just use this plugin. It's fairly simple. That you can add a secondary plugin that allows you to bulk upload these as well if that's something that you need. But you see, it's basically just one-to-one. If you land on this .html page that used to be how the site was built, all these .html pages, then it goes to the new version of the page. Very often, those pages stayed exactly the same. About us to about us, application to application, etc., etc. But then some of them change a little bit more, like this intensive outpatient.html. Again, it added a program on the end, right? There's some other considerations because they on their site link to their PDFs and other content on their site that's kind of auxiliary content, as I would put it. We need to also 301 redirect those because there's backlinks built to these old locations of these assets here. Some of them, I've directly found linked to different PDFs, right? So if somebody lands on this page for this Code of Ethics PDF, I want them to land on the new one, right? And maybe in this case, we may eventually change this to make sure that they land on this Code of Ethics page, right? So there's a variety of different considerations within doing this specific one. One of them being changing the keyword targeting, one of them being changing any of these URL structure elements, and then the last one being any of those extra media files, right? Now, when I asked this developer how many pages there were on the site, how many URLs there were on the site, he told me 34, right? And I already knew this was wrong because I use SEMrush, right? But when you're doing these types of things, you need to factor in like pretty much all the content that's on your site or has been on your site. So there's a variety of pages that he had removed from the menu or weren't supposed to be live, but Google still finds these pages, and they actually still rank for different things like heroin additives, because this page on their original site was still live. Now it's not live on the new WordPress install, but there's a variety of things that you need to look out for when you're working in a team, and in this case, for example, because of the way the site was built, very often, crawlers don't interact with sites properly when they're not on a standard, something like WordPress that everything knows how to navigate. SEMrush couldn't even find all the pages. So there's pages today that are still, like this alcohol addiction page is not live on the website, and the Google still has it listed when I do a site search for Next Step Recovery and just look at all the different URLs that show up for Next Step Recovery, and you can see this marijuana addiction page and this alcohol addiction page both coming up, right? You also see the old version, the old URL of the Our Founder page and the new URL for the Founder page also showing up. So some of this is just different overlap that comes up as Google basically re-indexes your site all over again when you make a change. Now, closer towards the back here, there was also some articles that, or some posts that were really interesting. Let's see, they may have changed today. Well, I'm not going to click around too long for them. Okay, so here's one of them right here. This is no longer live on the website, right? It's from 2015, but Google still has it listed. So it was still live somewhere on the website, on the old website, even though it wasn't linked to. And there's a variety of these different applications or house contracts that were found in Google's database all through time, right? From again, all the way back to 2015, and various months. Sometimes, I think in 2016 there was like 6 of them, and through Google ended up finding those and redirecting those to their updated versions, because somewhere something is linking to those or has those on the internet, and at the very least they're on the webarchive.org, and because Google's is a massive canonical directory, I think that it probably pings the algorithm even when something isn't live anymore. That's a little bit complicated. I won't go all the way down that rabbit hole. But the last thing with this site, because I have to do these 301 redirects within this specific plugin, and there's wildcards I can use with this, and maybe there's a solution to this. I've encountered a problem when trying to redirect the old URLs for the blog posts to the new URLs. I can remove the redirect that I have here, or the redirect that I have here, and it would help, but I'm not sure that that's what I want to do. Just to explain this to you, the old blog was listed at recoveryarticles.html. I have now redirected that to nextsteprecovery.com/blog, right? The new blog page. But all of these different blog posts had these funky URLs that go directly through the recovery articles path. And because they do that and then have this weird thing right here, when I click through on this article, it's not going to take me to this searching for signs of recovery page. It's going to take me, it replaces the blog in the recovery articles, and then goes to this search page here, and just does a search for this. So it ends up bringing you to this blog page. It doesn't bring you to a 401 or a 404 error, meaning that this page doesn't exist, which means that Google will not actually detect this error. But if a user goes to click through on a link that's supposed to take them to, I forget which post I even clicked through, then it's not going to take them, I can just look up here, it didn't take them directly to the searching for signs of recovery post that is now on the new website. It does have a URL, but there's an issue here that is preventing it, and it has to do with the path that these are following. So in the next example, you're going to see, because I use WP Engine, if this was hosted under me, which is maybe something that I may recommend to her soon, this would be I would already know the solution. Now, there very well may be a solution through this 301 redirects plugin, or maybe I need to add a new redirects plugin. Maybe I need to just let this one go to a 404, reroute my 404 pages to the home page or something like that, and then give all of these guys individual 301s. Now, nuanced conversation, could be talking over your head. If you feel like I was, then just chalk that one up to a message to my team. So in the next example, we are going to go over a Wix install. And obviously we are moving it to a WordPress site. Actually, the client is really doing this himself. I'm just facilitating a few things for him. He's super hands-on, and the main thing is that he's building out his WordPress site, kind of with instruction from me about hey, build these pages this way, or maybe this page should be next, or whatever the case may be. And I'm trying to facilitate him moving from Wix to WordPress, largely because he's not showing up in organic. He ranks number 2 in maps for wedding DJs, and a variety of other search terms, but he's not showing on the first page below that at all. And I am fairly sure that it has to do with the way that his Wix site is built. Wix is crap, just to put it bluntly. Now, it's easy to build a site like that, and you could certainly rank a Wix site. I'm sure that if he wanted to pay me more and I was doing all of it and I could problem solve everything, then certainly I could get his Wix site to the first page of Google organically in addition to maps. But I'll probably save him money even if I built him a new WordPress site myself, just because there'd be some extra crap that you would have to do that would probably always be holding you back to an extent, staying on something like Wix that is built for certainly ease of use in terms of making yourself a new site, but is not built for you know, top tier digital marketers, professionals to use. So just looking over the site, one of the main things that you see with the site, this page crawl, I have it set as a limit to 500 pages. I bet if I did 5,000, it would still max it out. And that's one of the main issues. This site, just like Estes Co, is not very big. Only has, you know, a very few pages, and then probably about 20 blog posts. I guess it's more about the size of Next Step Recovery. But eventually you get down here and you see that there are, after about the first 80 pages or something like that, there are just a ton of basically search. Let me just show you what this is. This is just a search page on his blog through Wix that, for whatever reason, SEMrush is getting triggered and looking up and finding all these pages where it's literally just his blog archive page where it's entered in triad wedding DJ into this search right here, and that is a useless page, right? And there's a ton of these useless pages that are, you know, kind of just like random searches, like triad wedding, wedding season 2018, Winston DJ. Some of these are keywords, but I don't know what Wix is doing with this crap. I guess trying to get his I guess that's what they think is good SEO or something like that on their platform. I literally have no idea. But I'm sure that it's creating like infinite loops for Google just to get tired of going through the site like, hey, and finding these same blog posts or same things. And obviously this is SEMrush's tool, right? So Google may be able to parse and see this better, but for some reason, they're just not showing him on the first page of maps or on the first page of organic. Now there's a couple of other things that we're also doing on the side that may be the gaps that need to be filled in, but I'm thinking, and this is what I told him to start out, is like, hey, let's just switch your site to WordPress. It may not really need anything else because Wix is likely holding it back. There's a few gaps in their citation profile, but it seems like, you know, they're placing number 2 in maps, so it's probably not citations. It's probably more of the website that they have, and they could definitely extend their content and make it longer as well. So looking through his site again, there's lots of 301s, but you know, in facilitating him doing this, I'm not really charging him for a like what we call relaunch support. I am like, he's moved on to my hosting, which allows me to do some of this stuff really easily, and so it's really not I don't have a need to charge him for it when I can charge him for things like citations and stuff. Otherwise, if there wasn't other services, then I certainly wouldn't just host a site for free, essentially. But there's a variety of things here where, you know, he's updating these things. I've given him some instruction, but when I ask him, you know, as I'm going to do the 301 redirect rules within my WP Engine install for him, I ask him like, hey, can you give me a list of all the URLs that are changed? Can you give me a list of any pages that you've deleted? And he was just wrong. Like, he for whatever reason, when I asked him this question, he said, well, only these 3 pages have changed and none of these other ones have, and literally every single page almost changed the URL structure. So Wix, for whatever reason, his original URLs for these different playlists that he has, and these rank nationally, some of them for, you know, best classic country songs or best bouquet toss songs or best first dance songs or whatever else, and they just have a, you know, no dash in the URL or anything like that. And then when he went to go create them, some of them he just like chose a different name. And so these were all funky. So I went in after I, you know, asked him the question and then got the answer, and then looked and was like, well, that's not true. Like, the reason I asked you the question was because I could tell that some of them were different. I just came in here and changed these URLs to what I think they should be in order to make sure that they rank better. So I have come in here also and added a bunch of URL changes, but you know, this is a business owner. The last example was a web developer, and it's very easy for other people to get this wrong. So if you're the person in control, if you're the person who has the responsibility of getting these 301s right, you gotta take it, like you got to take control of the situation, because if people don't understand the significance, they're just like, oh yeah, they're the same. But like, no, if somebody goes to that URL now on your website, it's gonna have disappeared. Like, you know, the old page for like the hub pages for these that's helping these rank, said music selection. Now he changed it to playlist, and I asked him directly, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, nothing against him or anything like that, but I'm just saying it's very easy for these things to get missed, and you cannot depend on another human, and you know, you might not be able to depend on the tools to make sure that you're getting the not only the old URLs but the new URLs, right? So I didn't even ask him about the old URLs. I went ahead and grabbed those myself, but with the new URLs, you know, he's building out the site, you know, as I'm going through it with him. So there's lots of things where we're having to communicate back and forth, and you know, some of it is how much do I want to, you know, over explain to him and whatever else, and making sure that you have the right balance. At the end of the day, I'm the one that's going to take control of it and make sure that it gets done correctly, right? Now, this one is much easier to handle these 301 redirects because, again, he is on my hosting, and that's part of why I'm doing it like this. And it allows me to not only have these organized with different names and whatever else, but you're allowed to use rejects in here. I think that's the way you say it. It's really my first time using it, other than AdWords. But you can basically assign different rules within this that are not only at the server level, so it's not in your WordPress install having to load on every page or do other crap within your WordPress site, but it's also has more complexity that I can set up and make things run, not really automatically, but just in a better way. And for example, with the blog post issue with Next Step Recovery, I could solve that much more easily in here, and I very well may be able to solve it easily in with simple 301 redirects and wildcards, but I've not gotten to that yet, and it's not as familiar to me as these are, where it's very easy for me to just create basically a post. You know, this is the redirect from this post. It used to say /post, and then, oh, this was a wedding, and now it's just, oh, this is a wedding because it's on WordPress, right? Then the country songs, this was the old URL, this is the new URL, right? Same all the way down here to photo boosts, whatever else the case may be, and it's much easier because of WordPress. And then especially when it comes to getting these blog search things right, I will be able to create a fairly simple capture all for all those crazy URLs that have been built, and probably you know, this maxed out my limit at 500. I think the limit I could use is 100,000 or something like that, but I'm sure there's a variety of more garbage search pages on this website that I would also like to 301. Probably nobody's built a link to it, but Wix is using them for some weird reason, and that means that, you know, they're probably worth 301 redirecting, because SEO is largely about being as thorough as possible and just making sure you don't miss anything that could hurt you. Now, this last account is on another level from these last three. So this one is a large e-commerce site. Large mostly because there's a trillion variations to their projects. So like, there's definitely millions of variations to their project or to their products. Here, let me just click over on the site. They sell a variety of different furniture. I'm actually not on there. That's our development site. They basically offer 300 different types of fabric, leather, or faux leather for your different sofas. They have different styles. They have different cushion constructions. They have different legs. And when you start to multiply all those different variations across each other, you get a massive, massive site with a ton of URLs. Within SEMrush here, similar to what I did for Dawoke, is right before I ran this video, I upped the crawl limit. It was at 1,000 because there's really only about 1,000 pages. Like, by crawling 1,000 pages, I can figure out the site well enough to set up all the 301s. I don't actually have to look at every single URL, but eventually I probably will set this to a really high number, and then just scroll through, you know, looking at each page to make sure there's nothing else weird going on here before we switch this site over. But you know, as soon as I ran this last night, the number of errors and warnings and everything jumped up, because it basically says that almost every single page has issues, right? That out of these 5,000 pages that it got through, only 2 of them are healthy, and that's oftentimes what you see with custom HTML installs, especially once they get to be 2 or 3 years old, 4 years or 5 years old, whatever the case may be. And some of these, you know, are duplicate title tags or whatever else, and so that means that these are probably just low quality pages or repeat pages of other various products, and they may just need a canonical, or I mean, there's lots of different solutions or considerations within the specific site. I mean, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole too much on every single thing that we have to look at and consider, but they also have this element of a furniture blog.simplicitysofas.com, right? And because of, you know, this isn't like a shared host like HostGator, the way that this host is set up, an extra thing that comes with this specific 301 redirect is these blog posts, lots of their blog posts generate a lot of traffic, get a lot of search volume, because he's like a freaking furniture expert, right? He like knows stuff and he writes about it. And because of that, or because of the way that this is on a subdomain, when we switch his site over, we are going to have to go into his domain registrar, create a subdomain at that level, and then point that to WP Engine, and then run redirects through you know, the backend WP Engine that you just saw with Dow Oak events. And this, like, it'll have to be done, like, I can't do this ahead of time. So as soon as we take the site live, we're gonna have to finish about 120 301 redirects, and hopefully before Google comes back to the site, right? And it very well may happen, but no telling when Google's about to recrawl a site. So it's just something that, you know, we'll have to move quickly on, and it's something extra for this one. And this one didn't need any extra, because they, you know, in addition to the 300 fabrics and the whatever else, they also have like a 500 samples or something like that. There's lots of different pages within the site that are all needing to get redirected to the proper places. So there's the blog posts, and then we're also creating a variety of new pages that are, you know, specifically for SEO, like furniture that fits old homes, furniture that fits RVs, furniture that fits boats, and, you know, American made furniture, and you know, a variety of other pages that just have to do with funnels and conversions and things like that. Now this client specifically, again, he is a really good writer, or really knowledgeable writer, and he's willing and able to consistently create content. So similar to Dow Oak Events, where he wants to build out his site himself, this client is pretty much a master when it comes to furniture. And so another element with this is optimizing their blog. And even though he's a writer, a good writer that can put out a 4,000 word post, he has never been coached in SEO until now. So he also has 72 word posts on his blog, many useless blog posts that once we, you know, I have a little bit more training to do with him, but once we get to it, I will be going through and creating a verdict for each of these to say, like, hey, some of these need to be trashed in 301. Some of these need to be probably 301 to the homepage. Some of these need to be 301 and combined with what would be the pulse that was above it. So I would just order the thing so that it says this one's getting 301 to above. This one says good enough. This one is saying this is a post worth optimizing, and this is a post worth making cornerstone content, as Yoast puts it. And then the 301 is complete once those are done, right? So there's obviously lots of things to get changed or fixed up within these, but some of these are going to get extended, some of these are going to get folded into other ones, and so there's other post level. Not only are we going to have to immediately execute on getting these 301s with the blog sent to, because now we're removing that subdomain, right? We're not rerouting that to a furniture blog subdomain anymore. It's going to, they're going to blog post pages just on the regular, you know, simplicitysofas.com/this is my blog post. And so there's a lot of other things that we're going to want to clear up before we actually go to execute that. And this is one of those where we're going to figure out which blog posts are staying, which ones are getting extended. And he's already created like another leather series as well. So there's a variety of things that are going to go into this relaunch that, you know, some of it is just because of e-commerce, where I meant to click through and show you some of these pages. Some of these pages go, you know, this is already 3 levels deep, slash categories, slash view, slash love seats, right? I click through beyond that and look, it's slash item, slash index, slash love seats dash chairs, slash chair and a half. So that means that there's tons of URLs hidden throughout all those different parameters here. When you click through, and you know, go to a specific item, you see these things get really ugly, like really ugly, like return this stuff. And then even as you switch, let's see, I mean, there's a ton of ugly URLs I could pull up here. There's somewhere where I can pull up this photo, and it's even the image photos. I'll just open it like that. Even the image photos are terrible. Like this is slash scene slash display slash Lorelei chair and a half scene front slash width equals whatever slash height equals whatever slash s equals, what is that, slash large dot jpeg question mark foot equals oak and undefined, right? So these are not URLs that are going to be valuable to a 301 redirect, but they're important that we understand where they are. And in case that we go through the backlink profile and see that, like, hey, somebody sent a link to this profile or to this specific page, we need to know that this now corresponds to our new singular, well optimized Lorelei chair and a half photo, right? With the square oak legs, right? It's going to go to the specific photo, not some weird version of the photo or anything else. And you know, those would be on a case-by-case individual basis, because we will have to deal with all these crazy URLs like this. All these will need to be 301 redirected, and they're largely set up to this point. But that's one of the main things with this, why I say you have to triple check and troubleshoot, is because we're going to have to follow lots of these links, right? So when you need to go and troubleshoot your 301 redirects and find out, make sure that they're all working, you need to come down these old URLs and you need to click on them and make sure that when you click on them, you end up on the right page. Now, this isn't going to work right now because this site isn't live, but I could show you that on Next Step Recovery, where we click onto that old URL and it ends up in the right place. That's what you want for users and for search engines, and that's the main thing when it comes to 301 redirects, is that you plan it and then execute it, right? That's a big scope is super important. The organization and your end goals are super important, because some of these things, you know, for some of these brands, for Dawok, for example, if I was doing everything, if we were getting paid for everything, we were doing it all ourselves, I would be asking him lots of questions about how he wants to build out his services over the long term, to make sure that we're setting things up for the long term, as opposed to short-term goals in Greensboro or whatever the case may be. You know, I'm not going to extrapolate on his goals here, but that's enough of this rambling. Hopefully this was valuable to you. If you are on my team, obviously you can ask me all the questions. If you're not on my team, just drop those things in the comments below. If you actually got through, or you know, if you've seen any of this video and you have a question or a comment about any of this, or certainly advice on how to make these things easier, or whatever else, I'm certainly always open to learning. But I guess you can like and subscribe to my stuff if you wanna. That's cool too. Or if not, that's cool too. Of course, if you need help with SEO, I'm here to serve you. And until next time, I love you. Peace.